Barcelona, PSG, Leipzig against Liverpool. That is the menu this evening. If you're just tuning in, Liverpool fans, and didn't catch the team, Jurgen Klopp has gone with Henderson and Ozan Kabak as his central defenders this evening, with Trent and Robertson full-backs. Midfield is Curtis Jones with Wijnaldum and Thiago, and then front three, as usual, Mane, Firmino and Salah. Meanwhile, Barcelona against PSG is at the Nou Camp. It's Pochettino versus Koeman. Neymar is out. There is hope he'll make the second leg on March 10th. He has a thigh injury. Verratti has overcome a hip injury to play. For Barcelona, Piqué, he's only trained for the last 5-6 days, but he starts in defence. Their midfield is Frenkie de Jong, Busquets, and the wonder kid that is Pedri, who I'm looking forward to seeing properly this evening. Just 18 years of age, seems to be the real deal. And then up front, it's Dembele, it's Griezmann, and it's Messi, who in his last 10 games has scored 11 goals. He seems to be feeling good about life again. Philippe Auclair, evening.
Good evening to you. I was just laughing when you just gave those statistics. It's just ridiculous, isn't it?
I think we're immune to them. I don't know what he would have to do to stop us
I
anymore.
don't want to be immune. I want to be vaccinated against this kind of feeling that it's normal what Lionel Messi is doing. What he's doing is totally out of this world. Extraordinary, really.
You do have to say to yourself, this isn't normal. This isn't normal. 11 goals in 10 games. This isn't normal.
And those goals, and when you see them, they're just not just any goals. They're very special, very important goals too.
Yes. Well, I don't know, did you see on Twitter earlier on, Gary Lineker retweeted it, if anybody wants a look, but UEFA, I presume it was, put together a compilation of all the goals Messi has scored in this round of the knockout stages, the round of 16 goals. And honestly, it's a career reel for any other player. The quality of just so many of the goals is insane.
Well, it is, what can you say? I was thinking of another compilation, which is goalkeepers' reactions to being beaten by Lionel Messi. I don't know if you've seen this one. It's very entertaining. What happened to me? What just happened right now? No, honestly, we're dealing with levels of ridiculousness, which are, ridiculousness of sublimity, really, which haven't been reached by anybody for such a, over such a long period of time. Well, what can you say? He is the greatest. There is no doubt about that.
To chart recent history between these pair, they've met a few times in the knockout stages. Barcelona have knocked out PSG on the last 3 occasions, the 2013 quarterfinals, the 2015 quarterfinals, and in 2017 in the last 16, that insane 4-0 defeat in Paris, followed by the 6-1 at the Nou Camp. So they've generally been pretty decent games. We're diminished on the 2017 batch.
Yes, I mean, it's very strange because these are actually 3 very different ties. If we're talking just about the game, which which was basically face to face, not group games, which don't matter. But you had the one which was 2013, is that right? With when Laurent Blanc was the manager, and you thought PSG was so close, and actually they just went out on goals which had been scored on the other's pitch. Then they were completely spanked 2 years later. And then there was 2017, which is, in Paris Saint-Germain's history, probably the most traumatic, if you can use such a word, such a dramatic word for a football club. But certainly is an occasion that they haven't forgotten. And to be honest, which has haunted them ever since. And extraordinarily enough, Neymar was on the pitch that night, but he was on the pitch for the wrong team, i.e. Barcelona, and scored twice in that particular game. And everybody remembers that game. I mean, it's one of those defining games of a club's history in the case of Paris Saint-Germain. And one of the big questions is the impact, the psychological impact it had on the whole generation of PSG players. How can they get rid of it? And when you look at it, I was looking at the starting 11 tonight, which has got, by the way, a couple of surprises in it, or interesting choices, shall we say. There are only 2 players in that team who took part in that 1-6 defeat, i.e. Marquinhos in central defence, and who am I? Am I forgetting? Yeah, Marco Verratti. How can I forget? Marco Verratti as well, who is going to play a different role tonight. Only 2 players out of 11 actually took part in that a very, very difficult defeat, 6-1 to Barcelona, which, by the way, still feeds a number of conspiracy theories in the Paris camp.
The last time we saw Barcelona in Champions League action, they lost 3-0 to Juventus.
Yep.
Since then, though, an upturn in their form. They have lost just one of their past 18 games, and I mentioned Messi's rejuvenation. What of PSG and Poch? I know they have 8 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss, and they're second in the table, but that doesn't really tell me what I need to know. How's Poch doing?
He's doing okay. He's doing well, I think. He's perhaps not doing as well as people would like him to do or were hoping he would do. The results are good, apart from a reverse against Lorient, which was really a very poor game, a 2-3 defeat in the league. Absolutely horrible. They found the going pretty difficult at times. They haven't been very fluid or fluent. Again, last weekend when they won against Nice, I mean, who are a tough-ish opponent. They only won 2-1. They were not entirely convincing. Perhaps they already had an eye on this particular fixture. You're not seeing the kind of PSG that you would imagine that Mauricio Pochettino could put together at this stage. He's not achieved with PSG what he achieved with Tottenham yet. Completely different situation. He had to find a new balance within the team, and I think he's starting to find that. He's starting to find a few answers to the questions that were in everybody's mind in terms of the midfield in particular. But we're not seeing a great PSG. We're not seeing a PSG that is functioning to the utmost of its capacities and its huge potential. And there are many excuses for that. I mean, they had a very, very tough beginning to the season. They basically had no pre-season. There was all the situation between Leonardo and Tuchel. There have been a number of injuries. Again, tonight they're missing 2 key players in Angel Di Maria and Neymar, but they've had this kind of injuries throughout the season. But Pochettino is, slowly finding his fate. He's only just arrived in this team, and it's not at the point of his stay within the club at which you would expect him to have already found a formula that works for absolutely everybody. He's still chopping and changing with tactical systems, 4-3-3-4, 4-2-4, 3-1-2, 4-2-3-1, and so on. Is trying, but I think there is a feeling that he's on his way to find the right formula, and he didn't seem, I would say, unconfident. There is no such word, but I'll use it before this particular clash with Barcelona. Even if he actually stressed the fact that the Barcelona we're talking about today, as you said, is not the Barcelona of a few months ago when people thought that Ronald Koeman was a no-no and had been a failure at the club.
Thomas Tuchel's arrived and done very well at Chelsea and instantly found a solution to some of the issues that Frank Lampard had. And clearly, when he talks about the game, I mean, I'm more exposed to him now than I was when he was at PSG. He's clearly incredibly tactically proficient and thinks about the game very technically. So these players are, whatever about Tuchel's personality or whatever the issues were, they're used to a high standard of technical coaching.
Oh, yes.
I suspect it's a leaky club. Are they happy with Pochettino? Do we know? Has he made a good first impression, or are they saying, you know what? He has, okay.
No, he has. He has, and I think most of the players are. I mean, they were not happy to see Tuchel go. They were the dressing room was split. That's what I've been told. And that some players were relieved a bit that he was going, and some players were a bit sad that he had gone. It was not a disaster. It was not a big emotional drama. And also, Pochettino arrived with a reputation that honestly preceded him, and they're very happy to be under the orders of somebody who is so highly thought of in the game. Mm. And we know that Mauricio Pochettino is in any case a very fine manager, so that there's no question about that. So we're at a stage where and when we cannot exactly gauge what the impact has been. And I think in many ways that's one of the reasons why people are so intrigued by what is happening tonight, is that it will be one of the very first moments when we will see what the impact has really been. Because normally you would have said that, for example, of the Clásico against Marseille, but Marseille is in such a rut at the moment, in such a poor state that you can't put any judgment on what Pochettino is doing because of a victory in that particular game. And the other games as well, you could think, yeah, okay, he's just trying to find his feet. No, tonight is a big one. It's a really, really big one, because he will also be judged in comparison with what Tuchel achieved with that particular team, which is to bring them to the very first Champions League final, which they lost by not very much in the end. So I would say that many of the questions you're asking me right now, we probably will have the answers tonight, but in about 3 hours' time.
Well,
I know that's a cop out.
No. It's look, it
But
sets
there
it
are
up
elements
beautifully.
already that we can look at things and see the fact that he's got Leandro Paredes, who is now one of his key players in midfield. That's important. The fact that he's decided that Moise Kean, who had a good game against Nice at the weekend, when the rest of the team was a little bit off color, really, and he decided to keep him when Sarabia was thought by many to be favoured. That's an important and strong choice. So he's making strong decisions at PSG, and I do think that they're accepted by absolutely everybody. I mean, it's just that some people thought in Paris that Tuchel was a bit of a dead weight, strangely enough, and was actually preventing the club from going forward. Of course, that wasn't the case. And they're now realizing that maybe they were too hard with Tuchel, and I do hope that it will help them be a little bit softer on Pochettino as he's trying to find his way.
How much stock do you make in talk of this Barcelona comeback, one defeat in their past 18 games?
I'm always dubious because I listen a lot to what my Barca friends are saying. Got quite a few friends who are actually socios or socis, to talk in Catalan, and who are all telling me that it is despondency and despair, but clearly that's not the case. And as Pochettino himself said, and I'm talking about Koeman, is that judgments have been made about the way Koeman was leading this particular team very, very quickly, as if, again, he was supposed to arrive in what was, my goodness, what a mess of a club. And it is still a mess of a club, to be honest, with the elections coming as well. And supposed to find an answer straight away because he had been a legend when he was a player. And of course, that's not the case, but he's been given time. And interestingly enough, when you look at the comments that I see about Barcelona, about the way they play, about their fragility at the back, about their lack of speed, rhythm, inventiveness, and so forth, I think this discourse has changed slightly. It's partly due to the fact that you've got players like Pedri who suddenly have appeared and have imposed themselves and are obviously creating, quite a stir and a lot of hope actually in those ranks. But the discourse has changed, and nobody sees them, I think, as the soft touch that they were supposed to be, or the softer touch that they were supposed to be in the autumn.
Yes.
So, yeah.
It's going to be very interesting. I mean, you
Fascinating.
think back to that Bayern Munich defeat, and it just felt like end of era. Well, we're not, this thing could go up completely in smoke. So they're back here again, and there's talk of rejuvenation, and there's Pedri, which seems very exciting and less of an old man vibe. And yet, it could so easily go up in smoke again. So that's where we are. That's why tonight's such a great game.
Yes, and obviously, and it's a special position. Even when I talk about a position, it's an interesting one because it's in a position that PSG has never dominated. So I think we're going to gauge where each of these clubs is at the moment by what is happening tonight, and obviously what is happening in the return game. But tonight feels very, very important and very significant. We will have if Barcelona have a convincing victory over PSG, which I think would be what most people would expect, given the absentees on PSG's side. People will say, well, Koeman has steadied the ship, has steadied the ship, and he has a way forward, and we've got to count on them. If Pochettino, does something special at Barcelona, people say, well, that's it. It is the real start of the Pochettino reign. I probably warmed up the seat for a 1-1 draw or 2-1 home win, which will mean nothing,
yes,
and which will be able to read absolutely nothing. But it does feel like an important moment in both clubs' season. Yes, absolutely.
Something very inconclusive coming our way now. A very last word. Hard to know what to expect from Liverpool this evening.
I expect a reaction. I don't share the doom and gloom approach that many people have had about Liverpool. And I'm not a Liverpool fan. I'm not a Red. But I think people have been a little bit on the harsh side, perhaps, in this period of turbulence for Liverpool. And I wouldn't be entirely surprised if they surprised us by a good performance against RB Leipzig tonight.
Okay, we shall see. Philippe, always a pleasure. Enjoy the football this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Philippe Auclair with us ahead of Champions League kickoffs at 8 o'clock. We'll obviously keep you updated throughout the night, not least on the football show between 9 and 10, our football coverage on Off the Ball, with thanks to Paddy Power. You can get information on responsible gambling by visiting gamblingcare.ie.
Football on Off the Ball
with Paddy Power. New normal, same old football. Paddy Power. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.